Just a little quick snippet about me. I run a small agency called Tandem Agency, and we work with creative freelancers, mostly with photographers, but work with creative people of many different varieties. And we handle the business and marketing side of creative work. So if if our clients as creative freelancers, creative talent, they focus on the creative side, and we take care of all the other stuff. As a result, we also get involved with a lot of the education side of many industries, publishing ebooks and e-courses and sort of that online growth. So we have our fingers in a lot of different pies, but it means that we're involved on the money-making side of the creative venture. So we've been, for this last almost decade now, been exposed to and been contributing to a lot of creative work, and it's a lot of fun. So my work, though I tend to spend a lot of time in front of a computer, dealing with, emails and phone calls, and do a lot of meetings. It also means that from time to time I get to go out with my clients and be on location with them, or be involved in a project that takes me away from my computer, which is always a nice treat. So one of my clients is David Dushman. I'll talk about him shortly. But every couple of years, he and I travel to northern Kenya to photograph the nomadic people of northern Kenya, and to document the culture, and to work with some NGO efforts up there. So it's kind of a fun project. I get to leave the computers behind and go do some work in the field. So I'm not a very good producer, but I do on that project. I do some producing, and I carry some bags. I do some stuff. But I really enjoy being a part of the creative process. Always in the background, whether it's on projects or on the business side of things, the negotiating, the contracts, the IRS, all the nitty gritties of working a creative venture. I'm behind the scenes, doing the things that need to get done in order to make money, in order to be profitable, in order to keep the creative talent in demand and working well. So like I mentioned, David Dushman is a photographer, an author, a publisher, a public speaker, and his business is as diverse as it is. It's anchored on his writing and on his photography. And so his business, it's one of those things where, he does the things that he wants to do, and my team and I take care of the stuff that he can't or shouldn't be doing. So it's kind of fun to be able to be that intimate with creative work. And but one of the things that I've discovered in my work is that it all can hang in a balance. And this photograph I took of David, I shall just do a quick sanity check. Jamal, you're seeing me advance my slides? Maybe I lost him too, but I'll just keep talking.
Yep. You're good
Okay, cool. Thanks. That was a sanity check, and drink.
Nice. Guzzle up.
So this photograph I took of David, we were in the Slot Canyons in Valley of Fire in Nevada, and we were traveling together, just making some photographs, going kind of on a guy's trip. And 3 weeks after this photograph was taken of David, he fell 30 feet off a wall in Pisa, Italy, and he didn't die. I would have died had I fallen that far, but he didn't. He somehow miraculously landed on his feet when he landed. He landed on his feet, broke his feet, both of them, cracked his femur, was like kind of bucket lifted out of this canal. Basically, he should have died. He spent a few very awkward, uncomfortable days in a hospital in Italy until his $275 annual MedJet Assist insurance policy kicked in, and an ambulance Learjet picked him up in Rome and flew him back to Canada for emergency surgeries and recovery. So what's interesting about that is not the fact that he almost died. What's interesting about that is, as a photographer, author, publisher, and speaker, his business grew by 23% the year that he almost died. Not many photographers can say that, or creatives can say that they spent 6 months in the hospital and their business grew over the previous year. So it means that my work, it's diverse, and it's involved in such a way that I'm always worrying about money. I'm always worrying about making sure my clients are productive, that they're happy, that they're engaged, and that their business is growing kind of regardless of what happens. So I've seen a lot, and I've experienced a lot, and it's one of those things where I like to try to keep creatives focused on how they can grow their profit and how they can diversify their business so that, life can happen without throwing everything, into the crapper. So I use that as sort of an illustration to make a point of that, this venture that you're on as a creative freelancer, as an independent creative artist, or someone involved in the creative industries, your independent venture, it's reflective of your art. It's reflective of the idea or ideas that you have in order to propel them forward. And ultimately, when you look back on this time of your life, whether it's a short run or a long run, it's part of your legacy as a creative. And I care about those things. I care about your art. I care about, those great ideas, and hopefully the good ones can come, to fruition. But at the end of the day, you've got to know that you did everything you could to push your art and your craft forward and your venture, and that you left nothing on the table. And, ultimately, there's a lot of variables that happen. You're not in control of everything that can or should happen around your business. But if you can do what you can, and you turn off Netflix or do whatever you got to do to put in the extra time and to make the best of the opportunities you have, then you know what, you're probably giving yourself the best chance. So what I'm going to do is kind of walk us through a few things that I feel help you become more attractive to your clients, as well as to actually go out and find those clients that you're looking to rely on. Because without them, you're not billing, you're not making money, you're not growing your business, you're just bashing around a really good idea. So the first thing is to strive to be an auteur. And by that, I mean, you want your offerings, your creative vision, your talent, and the offerings of your business to really make their mark and to have a really unique factor, because no one's looking for another contractor. No one's looking for another technician to push buttons and sliders and click things and do tasks. Those people are easy to get, and they're quite affordable, to be honest, becoming more affordable as your market, whatever creative niche you're in, industry you're in, there's a lot of saturation going on. So, there's no shortage of technicians out there. But when it comes to a business owner, a creative visionary that can really have an impact on a project, the harder you work at establishing your unique value, your unique contribution, that is what will set you apart, to the point where down the road, it might be that your creative legacy actually makes people go, oh, that's a Corwin project, or that's a, David photograph, or that's a David Dushman, photograph. I love that. And they recognize the talent and the work based on the history and the experience and the uniqueness that was put into the business, put into the art. Maybe a little bit like Woody Allen. You may love or hate Woody Allen. I just noticed the caption in the bottom corner of the screen is photographed by XXX, which means I stole it from Google. Anyway, like Woody Allen, a lot of people who know and love Woody Allen, they'll recognize his work, and they enjoy and appreciate his work right out of the gate. They know what he brings to the table, and he has full control of the projects that he works on. And he has a very distinct vision for his work, for his films. So I think a lot of creative freelancers tend to get stuck in technician mode, and they will never be attractive to the high-end buyers and be able to command the pricing they deserve if they're simply just pushing buttons. On that note, I think it's really important, in order to attract buyers, is you have to show your best work. I know that probably sounds self-evident, but I see a lot of websites, I see a lot of portfolios that sort of better, to be honest, they kind of represent an archive of one's work. And though that might be valuable, I guess, in some cases, anything that's a marketing collateral, it should really only show your best work, and ideally the work that is best suited to that type of client. So if you've got categories or collections or series or filters or tags to be able to organize someone's view of your best work that fits with them, then I think you're a lot closer to be able to get the right type of traction with new buyers. If you're a better steward of your business, you're going to be more successful. If you are better organized with your operation, you're going to be more attractive as a service vendor, and hopefully, more importantly, as a creative stakeholder. So again, this is some of the foundational stuff I think that plays into the fact that you're trying to generate new business. You've got to get rid of the chaos. If you've got stuff in your world that is messy and disorganized, whether that's in your digital files, whether that's in your inbox, whether that's in your physical workspace, whatever it is, if there's a mess around you, that mess, it bleeds into your relationships. It has a negative impact on your workflow, on your professional acumen, and it tends to filter down into areas of your business that you might not be aware of. One of the ways I think creative freelancers and creative business owners can start to really hone their craft and really hone their unique vision is to kind of get rid of the noise, get rid of the crap in their life. Again, maybe it's digitally, maybe it's, their physical space, maybe it's other aspects of their life that are just messy, disorganized, and distracting. Those things have an impact on your attractiveness as a talent. So it's sort of like a, kind of step one, get rid of the chaos so that you can move forward with a little bit more clarity. And I think your vision, your creative vision, will have a stronger foundation to rely on. Then I think it comes down to the mystery. If someone talks to you about working with you and they say, well, how much does it cost to work with you? How much, what's your fee? And they get a long, drawn out, kind of mysterious, elaborate, convoluted answer to their question, they're not going to be motivated to buy. If they say, well, how can you help me? And you give them a laundry list of all the ways that you could help them, they're going to feel, they're going to be confused, and it's going to be a little too mysterious for them to try to move forward. If there's elements of your venture that cause any mystery, confusion, you can look back to your inbox, and if there's long email strings that go into landing a new client, then there's probably some ways that you can streamline that experience. Maybe there's a way that you can create a simple sales document or a bit of a workflow. Or through it 1 second and drink. I should do more drinking webinars. Try to remove the mystery so that your experience with your business, selling your business, is more confident, and that those that are buying from you feel this sense of like relief. Because a lot of buyers are actually quite frustrated or anxious just engaging creative talent because they have no idea how it's going to work out. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. They're really not sure what the next steps are. It's sort of like this black hole of creative talent, and hopefully something works out. Got to try to find a way to remove that mystery. When I look at the marketing effort of a creative business owner, I'm always challenged. I always like to challenge them to try to find ways to attract buyers versus trying to stand out in the crowd. Because as the saturation comes, as more and more people are flooding the market, the barrier to entry is lower and lower almost by each day. You want to be able to attract buyers so that you're not having to. The difference in my world is push versus pull marketing. Push marketing is kind of, based on advertising and, kind of the giant inflatable gorilla approach. And push marketing, it will always cheapen your talent. It will always kind of pull down the scale, pull down the value of what you're able to offer. Whereas if you're able to do things that people come to you, you're in the strongest position possible to sell when they approach you. One of the ways that I see great talent doing that is they document, they share their exploration into new creative endeavors. They're pushing the creative envelope, and they're documenting that process. So this is a photograph of David Duchemin, who, once he had recovered from his near fatal accident, realized that, spending time outside, hiking, climbing, camping, all those kind of things he loved as part of his personal life and a little bit of his vocational life as a photographer, doing photo assignments for, out in the boonies. That stuff's not going to happen if the fact that he's walking like a penguin, hobbling around on a cane or whatever. So he took up diving. He took up scuba diving, and he took up underwater photography. And right from the first photograph through to now, 3-4 years later, he's documenting this process of learning the art of, underwater photography and obviously the adventure of diving. And he's now injecting this experience into the audience that he's engaging. And clients, buyers, prospects, readers, customers are just fascinated by this kind of going behind the scenes. So a designer, Chris Benson, he started 2 communities. Hot Art Wet City was his studio, and then he did a trading card community and a button community where artists and designers were contributing designs that he would make into buttons, and then he would host these events where people were given a select number of buttons or cards, and they're trading them and arguing over which ones they want. He created this community around designers. Well, he wasn't really aiming to either market to designers as much as within the industry of design. He wanted to establish himself as a credible, sort of as an authority, as a thought leader, someone that, yes, he is one of the many designers in his community, but as a result of being the host and producer of these events and these communities, it gives people a chance to see his expertise in a new light. Jeff Hamada of the boom.com, the fantastic art blog, which I love. This is a shot of Jeff doing a live painting at a sponsored company event. So he wanted to bring his art and design into a physical experience so people could engage with him and see him doing his work, live. And it's just a great way for him to do his thing and have people be attracted to what he's doing. That's not push marketing. These are all examples of pull marketing. So those types of things kind of help drive the prospecting and the new business model forward. Now we're going to get a little bit more serious, a little less fluffy. You have to define your ideal client because, well, I say that because a lot of creatives kind of just feel like their audience or their target market is sort of like the internet, the world out there. I met an emerging photographer, very talented. And I asked him what his plans were. He said, I want to shoot for Vogue magazine. Wow, what a great goal. That's fantastic. I wish you all the luck with that. And then I said, well, tell me a little bit about your plan. Like, when would you like to see this happen? And he said, well, within the next 2 years. I thought, wow, that's very ambitious. You have my attention. So let's talk about it. And then I started to ask him, like, what kind of local designers, which local designers do you follow? Which runway events do you attend? Which publishers do you stay in touch with? Which magazines do you subscribe to? What brands do you wear? And I sort of just hit him with some of these questions. And he just sort of said, well, he basically said no to all those things. So the challenge there, and to my first point in this section, is that if you can identify your expertise and most importantly, your relevant work history or your relevant creative history, then you're able to start clarifying that ideal client. There's got to be some commonalities, not only amongst your prospects, so that, they might represent different industries or different sectors or different needs, but if there is a strong enough commonality between them and they connect to you and what you bring to the table, it means that you're a lot better off. When someone says to me that they want to build a business based on pursuing a market that they're not really a part of, they're not a part of the industry or the community or the stakeholders, they don't track with them, they're not going to be able to sell to that market at all. Those buyers are not going to represent the actual people that are going to give them money in the near future. So there's got to be some commonalities there. Once you have that established, then you often, and most entrepreneurs have to kind of come back to this once in a while just to refine and reevaluate their brand, their offerings, their pricing, just to make sure those things line up. When someone tells me, when a photographer tells me their day rate is $2,500 a day, well, if they've never successfully sold at that price point, then it's kind of silly to have that as an established price. If they've sold successfully, say 10 times at that price point, then they're obviously ready to start increasing their pricing. But it's always a good idea to make sure the relationship between your ideal clients, the ones you're trying to engage and attract, and what it is that your business is built on, there's got to be some connection there. And don't just say, people on the internet or people out there or people in my local community. That's not refined enough, not by a long shot. So the pipeline, a more manageable pipeline, is a sales pipeline is when you can look at the effort of gathering up opportunities and kind of putting them through your funnel, at the highest level sort of ideas, acquaintances, I hope they work with me through to the point that they're, money spitting out the bottom. You want that pipeline to be useful, not stressful. Ultimately you're doing what you're doing because you're creative and you're talented and you're probably very productive in the workflow that you've established. You're not going to ever become a really hardcore salesman, which is totally fine, but your pipeline has to still be something that you can pull off. So the first thing is you've got to do your homework about the people that you're wanting to do work with. Again, whether you are pursuing them or you're trying to do the right things that attract them, you've got to do your homework. You've got to identify the companies or the people that you want to be working with. You got to learn about them, understand their needs, wants, desires. Find out who their connections are, their relationships. Do your homework. And a lot of people think, well, okay, I'm going to go online. I'm going to find some email link. I'm going to send them an email. That's not homework. I think sitting on it for a while and doing homework over the span of a few weeks or even longer, a few months, to sort of track someone on Facebook, keep an eye on what's exciting them and what they're sharing. You want to be able to make it so that the people that you're engaging with, that there's some investment on your side about how you're going to sell them. Because you cannot sell to someone you don't understand. It doesn't work. So a couple ways to sort of have a manageable pipeline is, first off, you've got to be emailing humans. If you're emailing office at, admin at, PR at, or whatever, it's not going to work. You're going to be sending email to the kind of the gatekeepers. You're going to be sending generic emails to, dear sir, hey you, or hey guys. No one responds to that stuff. No one wants to, hear from someone that's kind of pitching the general company. So that never works out. So Email Hunter, or hunter.io, is an application I've used to find, if it's not easily findable, and if I want to start the homework process, is to find the people that are associated with the brand or company that I want to get involved with. And then I can obviously, do a better job of homework from that point forward. So here I typed in vogue.com. I did a search, and these are all the publicly available email aliases that are on the web. And there's a little traffic light system. A green dot next to their alias means that there has been a recent post according to, what's been findable in the search engines. So, Chloe, associate beauty editor, maybe there's an opportunity there. And there's, not every company makes, their data is not available, but some of them are. So it's helpful to kind of start that process if you're finding some initial barriers. Your customer relationship management effort, CRM, I know that sounds really, grand, but your effort of doing your homework, it should not be left to your inbox. It shouldn't be, just some like random notes in a moleskin, or scribbled on a Post-it note, or written on a piece of recycling next to your computer, or written on your hand, or just left in your brain somewhere, or on Facebook. You do your homework and document it in a place that makes sense. So I'm a big fan, especially recently, of One-Page CRM. It's a simple CRM tool. It's not scary and grand like Salesforce or Nutshell, there's lots of great tools out there. And if you really want to get sophisticated, you can spend the time and money doing that. But One-Page CRM, I think, is a creative, friendly application to help you organize the people you're trying to engage with, the people you're doing your homework on, the brands you're looking to pursue or attract, and using One-Page CRM to document that and to set up little reminders, flags, notes about the conversations that are going on, the emails and phone calls, and things that you want to do with them. It's a great place to organize that. So consider using a tool that can help you organize those things. If you can serve an audience, I think that's one of the best ways to then attract buyers from that pool. When, as a creative talent, if you're contributing to an industry or a topic or something where your buyers are engaged, where your prospects also are contributing to or are listening to, those conversations, you're going to be able to establish yourself as an authority, as a credible voice in the industry or in that genre. You're going to be able to by putting your ideas forward, you're going to be able to be more attractive. So in the wedding industry, when a photographer or a designer, when they contribute to the same publications that brides are that brides follow, or they are in the sort of hospitality world and they're engaging with event producers and venue operators, and they're contributing to the issues and opportunities and challenges of those industries. It means that they're going to be, the perception is that you're entrenched, that you're involved, and you're not just a vendor to that type of buyer, but you're actually contributing. So it's definitely how I launched my business. Is I gather together creative people and try to find ways to help them and try to find ways to contribute. And I see it across every industry and every sector that your market will grow as you serve that market with ideas, with opinions, with resources, with introductions, with referrals. You know, be that voice. Don't just be the vendor voice. So as you're engaging in the conversation, there's lots of ways to do it, whether it's through a blog or through your social channels. But my encouragement to you is to consider publishing, whether it's through the Amazon platform or through, you know, self-inflicted PDFing or whatever you want to do. But find ways to publish resources, tools, things that people can actually use in their daily life or in their business life to kind of help them. Whether you want to sell it to them or give it to them for free or a combination of the both, you want to be able to contribute in a meaningful way so that, again, so it entrenches you as a part of that industry. The thing that worries me the most in the creative fields is inbreeding, in that designers tend to just watch and follow and engage in conversations regarding design. Photographers clearly do the same, especially when it comes to gear and shiny gear and new gear and other kinds of gear. Industryitis is a dangerous disease to contract because it can really put blinders on. If you're serving a market or niche like weddings or small business or entrepreneurship or the travel community, whatever your niche or genre is, and hopefully you have one, even if you kind of are a little bit of a generalist, I hope you have passions and some focus to kind of narrow your direction. And if you can contribute to that industry versus your own sort of peer level industry, you're going to be a stronger seller. I mean, my industry, I guess in a lot of ways is consulting, but I don't care about consulting. I don't follow anyone in consulting. I don't consume a lot of consulting material, maybe a little bit every now and then, but I'm not engaged in that world. I'm engaged in the world of my ideal clients and my ideal customers as much as possible. So ultimately, when it comes to when you have that opportunity to connect with someone, it comes down to a yes. What can you do? What can you ask for that elicits a yes? And it often isn't the, would you like to hire me? Or would you like to have a meeting? Sometimes a meeting is a great option. But whatever the stage is, sorry, of course it's a great option. Whatever the stage you're at with someone as you're connecting with them, your goal is to just move them a little further along through the pipeline. One great example using FreshBooks, like my friend Dan Carr illustrates in a recent article about FreshBooks, is an estimate is a great way to remove the mystery of working with you, because often the money relationship, the money parts can be really convoluted in a creative, hiring a creative person. So if you can say, would it be all right if I sent you an estimate or a proposal? And those kinds of things can remove so much confusion, where the call to action, it's so easy to say yes to an estimate. Of course you can send me an estimate because I can reject that later. But yes, you can send me an estimate and then we know a little bit more where we're at. Obviously, once you have the information that you need to make that decision, then the estimate is great. Because then the call to action on the estimate, especially in a tool like FreshBooks, the call to action is just click the green accept button and we'll move forward to the next stage. Those types of simple asks can make the selling process a lot simpler. And it puts your prospects at ease when they feel like they've been heard, that you understand their needs, and that you've given them something tangible to respond to. A lot of creative people sort of just leave it up to, you know, the great cosmos to figure that out. If you can inspire deeper inquiry through creative projects, either a personal project or a collaborative project, you're going to start to do the types of things that, and you're prepared to market those projects, you're going to start to do the things that buyers love and that actually attracts people to you, whether direct buyers or by extension, the people that they know. One of my friends and a former client, Dave Delnia, His personal projects are great, both collaborative and personal, but, and he's submitting them for, for the photo industry, recognition, but as well, he uses those personal projects to convey a style or an aesthetic. He wants to sort of showcase something about, where he's going with his creative vision. So here's an example of one of his Beach Kids projects, which I think is a fantastic way to sort of illustrate, what he was doing at the time. His collaborative projects are quite epic. This one from a few years ago was called On Gray. And initially it was Dave wanted to do portraits on a gray seamless paper, maybe have a little bit of styling, a little bit of props to kind of make it fun. Well, after sharing the idea and exposing the concept to a few other creative people, it ended up being a crew of 13, all contributed to this photo shoot that turned into a short film, turned into a bunch of opportunities for models and stylists and actors and marketers, and I was involved as well. And it became this big entity where, in fact, we set up a sub-site, sort of a dedicated web page, and we shared that with all 13 people talking about this personal collaborative project. It was a great calling card. It was a great excuse to get online and to share and engage with past clients or people that hadn't, responded much earlier. And it was exciting, and it wasn't salesy to share this kind of thing. The best thing about a collaborative project is it gives everyone in the group a chance to be a cheerleader. And no one wants to hear from a creative freelancer, an artist, no one wants to hear them talking about themselves because it's self-inflating. Most artists don't actually like talking about themselves anyway. However, if 12 of the 13 people, because you're the 13th, if 12 other people are bragging about you, are talking about your talent, talking about how amazing you are, about the client you just finished working with, or something like that, then that decentralization of sort of that selling or sort of that pre-selling environment, it's really quite remarkable. And when I speak well of a designer and I'm bragging about them and everything that they're doing, first off, my clients are intrigued that I would endorse them so well. The second thing is that they're probably thinking, I want Corwin to speak well of me like that. Anyway, but it can create a really amazing environment. So obviously, personal projects and be prepared to market and promote them to the people that, you have their attention. That's great. However, a short-term collaborative project where you give yourself some constraints, kind of maybe a 3-month timeline, push a collaborative project out. It's a great way to attract new buyers and new interest. And if all the collaborators are speaking well of each other, maybe it's a joint email list, or that might be a little bit hard to do, but a joint effort when it comes to promoting it, launching, say, its presence on a platform or a website or a social channel or a new Vimeo video or whatever it is, it can be really exciting. That project on Graham, and we did a time lapse. We had a behind the scenes video. We had a 10-minute feature film. We obviously had the still images of a portfolio and a little bit of a narrative that kind of tied it all together. And that was all created in one day. And it was, marketed and promoted quite quickly thereafter. So those are the types of things that actually help you find new opportunities and new clients. When it comes to your sales tools, I'm of the opinion that information kills great opportunities. And a lot of people tend to pack, whether it's on their website or on PDFs or contracts or proposals, and kind of just, fill the pages or fill people's brains with details. I think those types of, details are important. Contracts can be important. MOUs, memorandums of understanding or scope of work, all that stuff can be really valuable, of course. But the buying decision is usually should be made with a lot less information, or those things inform decisions later on. High impact, low information sales tools are actually what get people responding, what get people's, people inquiring about you, asking more questions, meeting you, being willing to accept a proposal or an idea. So, let's look at the business card. I mean, a lot of people, designers love making business cards. I know a lot of people have boxes of business cards in their top drawer by their desk that don't ever get anywhere. But sometimes in some situations, a business card is very appropriate. But let's take that as an example. Like, a business card shouldn't just be about, your contact information, because that's easy to give. That's easy to send around. No one's like, oh, I really would love, someone's business card. For those that do, they're kind of in business card collecting mode, and then they're in like hyper spam email mode. And I've seen people work showroom, trade show floors, get a stack of cards, spam everyone. Hey, it was great to meet you. Hope to work with you. And, you can do that if you want, but, you're only ever going to command, the lowest possible price point when you're doing that, I think. But like Mathis, for example, a designer from Brazil, he created, hand drew a gigantic piece of art that he then photographed, carved up, and each business card was a small segment of a larger piece of art. So when you looked at his business card, you learned right there, this is a small piece of a larger piece of artwork. Go to my website, enter a little code, and you'll learn where your piece fits into the bigger picture. So there was just one tactic that he used to kind of try to create a sales tool, a business card that brought people to his website, that sort of inspired them, gave them a little bit something to engage with. So your sales tools, whether it's a business card or a proposal or a sort of a fact sheet or something, fill it with visuals, give it some white space. Don't just cram it full of details and bullet points and, any legalese, if all possible. That comes a little later on. You're trying to engage someone, keep it light, keep it high impact, low information. One of the things that I see really work very well is to develop an email list. And that email list can be small and focused, 40 people. It could be 4,000. It could be 400,000. The size of an email list doesn't matter. It's those that are engaged in it, those that open and click your email campaigns. And ultimately, whether your list is small or big, if you're offering exclusive value, exclusive access to you or something in your business, or exclusive content, in other words, they can't get what you've emailed them anywhere else online. If you can do one or all of those things in an email campaign, you are you're putting something in their inbox that's valuable, which is great because there's a lot of junk out there. People send a lot of useless emails. But when I get an email from a designer that says, here's some of my new work, and they say, I'm not able to share it public on my website yet. Usually that means that they haven't got to it yet. But, here's a sneak peek, a quick look at something that, I will be talking about later. Cool, I'm interested. When a photographer shares photos from some of the last few shoots that they did, and I notice someone that I recognize, someone that they photographed that I know, or someone that's famous, or a shot that's really cool, and I didn't see that anywhere else online, I'm intrigued. If I get extended an offer, now again, exclusive value, my discounting stuff is a dangerous game to play, but if there's some way to sort of add value to those that have said, yes, I'm willing to hear from you, then great. Might not be a discounted price. Maybe it's an added value, an extra print or an extra, deliverable, or, you'll rub their feet at the photo shoot, or you'll, feed them grapes while they are reviewing your layout or watching, doing clips for your B-roll, whatever it is. But find ways in your email campaigns using MailChimp or Aweber or Constant Contact, whatever you use. I prefer MailChimp, is deliver beautiful looking emails that do at least one of these things, because then you're going to be able to, on a regular basis, kind of serve that small audience and have a group of prospects and maybe former clients and sort of keep them on a short leash, keep them engaged and interested. That's a way to sort of fuel that fire. And when it comes to social networking, you've got to cut it in half. However much time you're spending online, you got to cut it in half, because too much time is wasted creeping Facebook, creeping Instagram, pining after the work of others, stalking people that you shouldn't be stalking. And you got to stop liking stuff. I mean, you can like it if you want, but to be honest, it's kind of a waste of time. If you're trying to engage with someone, you're trying to get their attention. Hopefully you're not doing it in a pushy sort of way, in a, what's the word I'm looking for? A predatorial sort of way. But if you're able to contribute a question, or give them kudos on something, or just comment on what they're doing online, you'll get their attention more if you sort of contribute to the conversations that they're having, the things that they're sharing, so that either A, through that platform, you're able to message them privately, or B, when you do send them an email or make a phone call, they might recognize your name and sort of realize, oh, that person, I know who that person is. I know who they are. That happens all the time in my work, where someone will reach out and be like, I know that name. Where do I know them? And whether I can place it or not, there's some familiarity there, some context there. That goes a long way. But ultimately, spend less time online on the social channels. You're probably wasting time. Get in, get out, as far as I'm concerned. You should be active, and you should only be promoting on your website the social channels that you actually are active on. If you have a link to your Twitter profile and you're no longer tweeting, then please remove that link. It's annoying. And your LinkedIn profile, if you're not using that, don't send people there. Anyway, so a few parting thoughts before we jump into a little bit of Q&A is I really think when it comes to spending money, attracting people, and sort of building new prospects and new potential buyers, spend it on meals. Buy someone. It's really hard to turn down lunch. If someone says to me, Corwin, I'm going to be in your area, and there's a local restaurant that is a nice restaurant, and they said, I'd love to buy you lunch. It's pretty hard to turn that down. It's really hard to turn that down. It's hard to turn down a nice cold beer too. It's hard to turn down a meal. It's hard to turn down a coffee that's really convenient for me to step out of my office or to swing by if I know that they're nearby. Meals give you an opportunity to have some social context, to learn a little bit more, and to just be a normal human being instead of a seller, instead of a vendor. So I mentioned in David's business, one of his sort of tipping points was when he published his first print book with Peach Pit Press through Pearson Education. He got that publishing gig. He got that his book got picked up because he spent money to fly to an influencer in the industry and saying, I want to buy you lunch, and I just have one question to ask you. And he flew down, he met him for lunch, and he said, all I want you to do is introduce me to your editor. I want to be published by them, and I think an introduction by you will be worth, gold. And by the end of that lunch, the phone call had been made, and it'd be, if you don't work with David, you're an idiot. That's how it went. So I don't know if it was that maybe harsh, but the introduction happened as a result of that. So of course that's an expensive meal because that was a flight, hotel, car, and all that jazz. But if that meal can happen locally, even better. Be generous with your time and your money, and make it easy on someone to connect with you. And I would be remiss if I didn't at least rant on one thing about money. Profit more than revenue matters, as you can imagine. It makes sense, right? And there are some industries, photography, videography, and a few others, where the talent involved are spending way too much money consuming shiny shit. And they're spending money buying what they don't need to buy when they should be renting it, borrowing it, or just, working without it. I see way too much consumption of gear and consumption of, like spending money where they shouldn't be spending it. It's 10 times harder to make money than it is to spend it. So, when someone says they want more clients, I usually kind of feel like I should be saying, well, you kind of need better clients, and you probably should be making some adjustments on how much you're spending. I'd rather hear you say you lived on the cheap for the sake of your business than anything else when it comes to the decisions that you have the ability to make. And my last piece of advice, I kind of alluded to it already, is you've got to ask for more introductions. That's the type of ask that people find it hard to turn down, whether someone wants to work with you or not. If you say, hey, it's been great to meet you, if there's someone in your world that you think I might be a good fit for, would you mind making the introduction? Of course, the beer's kicking in, so I can't even say those things clearly. But introductions are really great. Referrals are not so great because a referral is kind of an independent, like, I'm going to talk about someone really well. So you really should work with them. But the talent isn't aware of that conversation, or they're not engaged in that loop at all. That's not as valuable. But if I ask someone, hey, would you mind emailing so-and-so? I know you know them. I would love an opportunity to chat with them. Would that be okay? It's pretty hard to turn down the simple ask of an introduction. And if I like you and I think you're talented, then the introduction is so much easier to make, especially if I'm not a buyer or I'm a past client. That introduction is very easy to make if I feel like there's at least some fit there. There's some commonality that makes sense. Of course, I'd make the introduction. So I mentioned that I work with creatives and I try to help them as much as I can with their business and their marketing. One of the ways I do that is through the Business Action Planner. It's an ebook and a resource guide that syncs also with Evernote if you want it to, but it's a standalone product. businessactionplanner.com is where you can find that. And if you want to ask questions, I'll jump over to the question panel in a second. But if you want to email me, you can do that, Corwin@businessactionplanner.com. That's one of my websites and one of the places that I try to be as helpful as possible. So there we go. All right. So I'm going to try to get out of this screen here so I can see myself, know what I'm doing. Hey, Jamal, did I blow things up?
Nope. Everything is cool, and I'm right with you.
Excellent.
Awesome. That was amazing. And yeah, we have a bunch of questions here. So you kind of also, I feel like, answered most of these in part. So
do you want me just to try to, I mean, I can read them here. Should I just do what I can to kind of address what I can?
Yeah. You can just kind of go down and we'll get into it.
How about I wave my hands around a lot and everyone thinks that's an answer?
Yeah, good answer.
All right. So Eric asked about the keys of sort of the do's and don'ts regarding starting a photography business. Yeah. Eric, there's probably a pretty long laundry list. But one of the things one of the mistakes I see most frequently is when someone starts their photography venture because, for this one reason, they like making photographs. Well, that's not a good reason to start a business. That's a good reason to be a photographer. But to have a business, you have to have, like, whose needs are you going to meet? If you're only going to meet your needs as an artist, then picking the fine art model might make most sense for you. And that sort of works. But if you're going to sell your services, then you want to be able to, like I kind of mentioned earlier, identify your ideal client as much as possible, figure out do your homework about those people, and see how you want to meet those needs. From there, your website and your portfolio need to reflect, whether it's from personal work or, smaller jobs that you've kind of worked your way up through, to be able to demonstrate that you can meet those needs. So again, once you've identified that target market, once your website and portfolio and your brand kind of fit, then it comes down to doing some of the things I mentioned about, putting your creativity out there, doing some homework, and trying to, it's going to take a while. I'm not going to lie. Most photographers I know that are getting started, it's a bit of a process, and there's no real jump. Don't worry. There's a lot of conversations out there around kind of going pro and turning pro. I don't care about that shit. Like if your job or day job or part-time job or delivering newspapers or working at Starbucks, if that's kind of what pays the bills, so be it. Be as professional as you can, regardless of how much work you've got going on, and give yourself a little bit of time. I'm going to guess, 1 to 3 years, to be honest, of sort of establishing that. But the biggest mistake I see is people just sharing photographs that they love, and their portfolio looks like a smorgasbord of visual chaos.
Yeah.
Jamal, I'm allowed. This is my webinar. I can rant, right?
Do whatever the hell you want.
HDR is crap. HDR, over-processed images, are very dangerous for buyers. If you might enjoy. I'm sorry, Eric. I'm not picking on you. I don't know if you have HDR stuff, but what I'm getting at is when someone over-processes their portfolio visuals, it in connection to the other work can look like visual vomit. It can look like clown vomit, and it's really dangerous. And HDR is one of those things that I see photographers doing, is sort of like, hey, this is cool, I learned this, and their portfolio looks really spazzy. But anyway, the point being is that a portfolio should be a cohesive experience, whether it's in style, in aesthetic, in subject matter, whatever it is. It should not be this sort of random collection of visuals. It should not look like just a grab bag of pretty pictures. Buyers don't need one-off pictures. They usually need a collection of photos. So a series or a profile where, a series of images from a shot, that's where it starts to make sense. So there's a don't for you. Don't just put up every picture that you like, because it won't speak well to your audience. All right. So Boyd here. Looking at the online portfolio for clients to view. Jamal, can everyone read these? Am I reading something out loud that everyone can see?
Yeah, everybody can see every question.
All right. So is it best to separate a portfolio by like genre, subject matter? The short answer is yes. Now, you might have hero shots that you kind of want to do at a snapshot level, sort of an overview level. If that snapshot view, if a hero shot of all those different categories work well and they fit well together, then fine. But ideally, yes, they should be segmented. So if I'm a real estate agent and I'm looking for, a headshot, a business headshot, then I'm not going to want to look at food pictures, even though you might also do food pictures. So definitely as much, whatever collections or series make sense, that's where you're going to be able to either point people to a very specific URL, or their browsing experience can quickly get them to the point where they're seeing something that makes sense. So hopefully that answers your question. I like seeing well-structured portfolios. Candidly, I'm a huge fan of Photo Shelter and the way that you can, whether in a mosaic tile or in collections, organize your work. Photo Shelter, by the way, their SEO is killing it. They're doing some mastery in the background. And if you're not really big into the tech stuff and the web design stuff, then rely on Photo Shelter. If you're a designer or a photographer, someone in a visual craft, and you don't want to be a web designer. Anyway, all right. So hopefully that answered your question, Boyd. All right, on to Ashley here. Best way to make business connections is using LinkedIn, especially when you don't have any mutual connections. All right, LinkedIn's a great, Ashley, I'm glad you mentioned LinkedIn. I'm really fascinated with what's happening with LinkedIn. LinkedIn bought lynda.com most recently, and then Microsoft bought LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So, and if I'm not mistaken, they've been, headhunting developers from Facebook like mad. Anyway, there's something going on in those camps, so definitely pay attention to those platforms. LinkedIn is kind of like, resume site on crack cocaine with some, vomit on the side. It's a pretty ugly dashboard, but I'm guessing that they're doing some hardcore work. Their Pulse channel, by the way, if you want to post an article into the Pulse broadcast feed, photographers and creative people, there's an opportunity there to share a featured image and an article in your LinkedIn profile. A lot of people are sharing on LinkedIn kind of really ugly. Yeah. Their articles might be solid, but their visuals are crap. So a creative person can clearly do a better job of that. So by sharing and posting on LinkedIn, you'd at least be doing what you can to sort of get some attention. If the connections aren't there in LinkedIn, you're not going to be able to, you can't really push to sort of hunt people down. It's a little predatorial. That's one of the challenges of LinkedIn. Most people use LinkedIn as a predatorial way to find new jobs. And it's not ideal. So the short answer is it's a bit of a long burn on that one. I would publish for a while, publish posts and articles through your feed, and go to the Pulse channel within the LinkedIn community to sort of, or channel, and kind of go from there. So sorry, in those articles, be tagging relevant industries, people, or organizations or groups. That's probably the best way to sort of try to attract people to you. Mm-hmm. So Eric asked, how does my role differ from that of an agent? That's a great question, Eric.
Yeah.
So I don't work on commission. So I do professional service fees, and I don't solicit on behalf of my clients. So if my clients, if I work with them and as a result of my 1 hour effort make them $1 million, then they just got a really good deal. But I'm involved in every aspect of their business, or at least the aspects that they want me involved with, and usually at a much higher level. So
you would say it's more like a PR firm almost, in a sense?
I mean, I refer to myself as a manager, as a business manager. So I kind of sometimes refer to myself as a managing agent. So, I mean, I do sales, but it's inbound stuff. It's my clients typically have plenty of demand. And instead of hiring assistants or general managers or, COOs, that's where my company and I are a better fit for them. So that's my role. So I have a retainer, and it's a bit on that sort of operation level side of things. So that's the biggest difference. Don't work on commission, and I don't do soliciting. So Eric, you're just hitting them out of the park. Another question. A blog. All right. So yes, I love blogging. Yeah. I love blogging, Eric. The reality is that native sharing, as in full posts in the social channels that you're active, that's where you're going to get the most engagement. So if you post an entire article and all your images into a Facebook post or an Instagram post, that's where you're going to get the engagement. People are not linking back to someone's website to the same degree they used to. So where people used to blog and then share that link on like on Facebook or wherever, Twitter, and people would link back and go to the blog, they're not doing that as much anymore. So I think blogging as a general practice is good. A blog on someone's website is a great archive. It's great for SEO. It's good sort of established sort of kind of documents your ideas, your opinions, your creative contributions, whatever is the work that you're doing. So I think it's great. But just keep in mind that you're probably going to have to start sharing in their entirety those bits, those articles and stuff on the Instagram, on Facebook, and that kind of thing. You can mention that it's also available on your website or whatever, but it's really about native sharing. So then Boyd asks, what do you consider best practices when it comes to marketing oneself? Well, my opinion is the creative, personal, or collaborative project is the most exciting way to market yourself, because then you can talk about the project, not talk about yourself. So I would, your first step or your next step, I think, Boyd, should probably be a collaborative project. And then when it comes to a book for photographers who want to learn more about the business. Oh.
Besides your book, of course.
Yeah. Living the Dream, yeah. So there's lots of books out there. I did write Living the Dream, and it's available on Amazon. But Vision Mongers by David Duchemin is also a great book. And then when it comes to outside the photography world, I really like Seth Godin's Linchpin. I think after about 100 pages, you can probably bail on the book because he kind of reiterates it. But Linchpin I thought was pretty helpful. When it comes to the education space, the Jeff Walker's Launched is a really great book. And gosh, I'd have to say Best Business Practices for Photographers by John Ellington. Oh my goodness, I'm blanking out on his name. Best Practices for Photographers. It's in its second print. That's a solid book. Why John Ellington? Anyway, some guy wrote this book. It's really good. You should go on Amazon. That's all. It's obviously on the more technical sort of nitty gritty side, but it's really, really helpful. And those Peach Pit Press is it's probably one of the best sort of publishers for that space. I really like what they're doing when it comes to the business side of small business and freelancing and entrepreneurship and photography. So go to Peach Pit Press. 1 second.
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second. Right from the bottle. All right. Sorry, Ashley. All right. So doesn't seem to be any other questions here.
Yeah,
right.
I think that was good. I mean, it's been an hour. I think that was super awesome. We'll definitely have to get you back in the new year.
Awesome.
A new round. Maybe it's shots this time. No, I'm just kidding. That probably.
I'm a lightweight, man. I'm a lightweight.
Think and sip is
yeah.
Think and sip.
Awesome. Do a shot every time I say the word client.
Yeah, and we have here. So if you guys go to the creator tab on the far right, a little bio about Corwin, and then also all his social links. Definitely follow him on Facebook. We got Twitter there, LinkedIn, Instagram, and his website. Definitely check out the agency Tandem, doing some awesome stuff. So Corwin, thanks so much for kicking off today.
Thanks, man.
Jam session. Definitely have you back on. Take it easy.
Cheers.
Cheers.